7 investigators decide to speak with Trigana pilots who regularly fly in the Oxybil area to find out if they receive terrain warnings. The pilots report that not only did the system provide warnings, it gave an excessive amount of false warnings due to the poor quality data.
If you're flying within a mountainous area, it can give you false warning or unnecessary warnings.
Was this area prone to false alarms?
Imagine you are trying to land in a small airport in the middle of the valley. You can see the airport in front of you, you're in visual conditions, and then the system starts giving you a warning.
Terrain, pull up.
You think, well, I can see the airport in front of me, I can see the terrain behind it. That warning is annoying.
And what do you normally do when you keep getting these false warnings? Hold on. He says sometimes they deliberately pull the circuit breaker. Sorry, go on.
It's an astonishing finding.
It might have been because of spurious or inappropriate warnings by the system. That is, it's telling you that you're close to the ground when in fact you're not. This is what I like to call the boy who cried wolf syndrome.
Terrain, pull up.
You know, the other flights we've done, we've had no problem. Let's just turn this thing off.
Terrain.
But if you pull the circuit breaker, you might forget that you've pulled it. And that's not good, because if you're going into a valley when it's still cloudy, you still need your systems no matter how unreliable that is. Any warning you get, if you don't have visual contact with the ground, you follow it.
Okay, thank you. They just pull the breaker to get rid of the false warnings. Apparently it's common practice.
Are you kidding me?
This revelation leads investigators to ask themselves a difficult question. Did Flight 267 lack terrain warnings? Because the pilots intentionally turned the system off.
Both the captain and the first officer were very experienced. In fact, I think these pilots are much more experienced than the average turboprop pilot.
We reached cruising altitude 11,500.
Ketika seseorang
Is it possible the pilots were overconfident because they had flown this route so often?
terlihat overconfidence,
We also asking questions to some pilots, particularly pilots that had experience flying with these 2 accident pilots.
Will you excuse me? I now have a pilot on the line that says he's personally seen Captain Hassanoon pulling the circuit breaker.
We found some information that some co-pilots flying with the captain knew that captain had the habit to inactivate the system.
Decreasing engine thrust.
Terrain, pull up. Terrain.
Overconfidence and complacency are 2 of the issues that are common in aviation. And what it leads to is certain equipment could be turned off because the pilots think that their experience in other aspects of flight will more than compensate
Terrain.
Yeah.
when a flight crew operates deliberately with an aircraft that's not fully capable. They're increasing the risk of that flight.
Looking through the captain's records, investigators discover that the airline knew about his habit of pulling the circuit breaker.
Says here the base scheduled a briefing with him to address it.
Based on this information, we assume that that day, on the accident day, the captain also inactivated the system.
Terrain, pull up. Terrain,
this.
pull up. Terrain, pull up.
Investigators now believe that the pilots intentionally disabled their warning system on an earlier flight that day, and then never reset it.
If the system was active, I'm sure that the accident would have been avoided, because the last seconds of the flight before the impact, the system will scream, pull up, pull up. The pilot would have taken action to save the flight.
No wreckage relating to the warning system is recovered from the crash site. Investigators can't know for sure if the circuit breaker had been pulled. But even if the pilots were overly confident they could make the approach without the aid of the warning system, there's still something else that doesn't add up.
The pilots flew into this area all the time. Why were they flying so close to the mountains in the first place?